You are now live.
Thanks, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Welcome, everybody, to the Council Compensation Review Committee. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe include the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. There's Brandy Lee. Brandy Lee, I'm so sorry about all your crazy household things. So thank you for showing up.
Thank you. I'm just gonna keep camera off if that's okay with everyone.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Kelly, when you take a vote, just get Brandy to acknowledge yes or no if we take a vote on anything.
Verbally, yes. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Good. All right. So let's start with reviewing. Ashley, do you have your hand up? Sorry.
No, I just turned off my video.
Oh, okay. See, I'm seeing your hand. Let's why don't we start with reviewing the information that Wendy sent from Brian about the options for the benefit reviews. Let's start with that on our agenda items. So I'm going to open the floor to some comments and considerations regarding the options that were sent. Just a note that if you do have questions regarding anything specific related to that document, Brian, I'm sure Wendy will do her best to help, but Brian isn't available till around 2:30, so we can hold the questions or we can write them down and do our best. Wendy?
Did you want to rearrange the agenda and go through the second item first? And then because we can do that as the committee, if the committee is comfortable with that. And then Brian can be present for the discussion on the benefits, because I don't feel overly comfortable answering a lot of the questions about the benefits package because it's not my purview, and I wouldn't want to give a wrong response because Brian is the expert in that, in that area.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So why don't we start with the other document that Wendy sent, and that was about the deputy mayor. So did anybody have any comments or suggestions regarding our recommendations when it comes to whether, and I believe as Wendy indicated, the only thing that we can actually recommend is compensation for that position. We can't recommend how the position is to come about, whether, it's right now in the bylaw that was approved by council. It's not a bylaw, but what is that called, Wendy? Sorry.
Well, it would be a council motion, like a motion adopted by council. And when they become deputy mayors, they are appointed by bylaw, but it's just a motion of council to approve that process.
Right. Yeah.
The committee can discuss if they have ideas that they want to include in the staff report about the deputy mayor position. You just can't put forward a recommendation. So if you do have some ideas, we can list them in the staff report. You just can't make a recommendation.
Okay. Well, that's better. That's clear for me, because I was hoping to have just a little conversation about that. That would be helpful. So I'm going to open the floor. Does anybody have any comments or considerations? Steve?
Yeah. Wendy, what's the, or if you have the figure near you, what's the deputy mayor currently make now?
They make the council salary. I can't recall that off the top of my head. Apologies. Plus $5,000
Plus 5,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus $1,000 car allowance too, right? Yeah.
That's $100 a month, right?
Yeah. Adding it's additional $100 a month added to what, on top of what a member of council would get.
The existing car allowance. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I think this position is we're in the past that it hasn't been over, I'm going back even the last 10 years of council, that hasn't been used as important position that such it is now, in that in the event that if the mayor ever had to step away, that the deputy mayor, he or she steps in and takes over the important position. And so I think it's a very important in that they have to have the respect of council, and as well as the respect of the confidence of the citizens of Barrie to carry on. So I could see them getting $5,000 more than, like something even a little more than a 2% raise, just on top of what, if that's what the regular council were to get, for example, for inflation. So I could see that even going up by half of that, like $2,500, on over and above the 5,000 that they get. So would actually be 7,500 up, and then any inflationary costs on top of that, because it is an important position, and he or she, like I said, steps in and has to know exactly what the mayor's job is, and as well as a regular councillor's job, that he or she fits in as a regular councillor in their regular weekly meetings. So I think a split of the $2,500 up to $7,500 is a good starting point for them, him or her.
Thanks, Steve. Any other comments?
I just have a question. Is there current, I don't know how to put this, like job shadowing? Like, do they have a lot of the same responsibilities as the mayor, even if it's just as a spectator, as opposed to a participator? I don't think that's the word, participator in meetings. Like how much do they have to kind of be prepared to step in, or is it some understanding that there would be maybe a little bit of gaps?
There would be some gaps because sometimes it's unexpected if the deputy mayor has to step in. The deputy mayor has to step in, for instance, during a meeting if the mayor has a conflict of interest. So he would have to take over and chair the meeting, for example. If the mayor wants to put a motion forward at a committee meeting or an amendment forward, the deputy mayor is expected to jump in and chair that portion of the meeting, which deputy mayor has done quite often. If the mayor is going to be absent, he's like the full chair of the meeting for either council planning or general committee. I'm aware that Deputy Mayor Ward has they do tend to split, or not split, but Deputy Mayor Ward currently does do a lot of events too. So, and it's kind of like that, how to explain this? He would be considered the mayor and the mayor is absent. So if the mayor is on vacation, he would be like that. Obviously the deputy mayor, but he would be acting in place of the mayor if the mayor is not available.
And then this is in addition to their ward responsibilities, correct?
Yes, it is on top of their ward responsibilities.
Thanks, Danielle. I would tend to agree with Steve's recommendation. I believe that the role is quite broad, and they need to be a really good multitasker and being able to jump in, when things, when they need to for the mayor, as well as Tammy clarified, their ongoing role in their municipal council ward. So I would tend to think that there is a value in this, considerably more than the $5,000 annual fee that they currently get. So I would tend to agree with Steve. Daniel, I'm not sure how you feel, or Brenda Lee.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely if they're playing a dual role. And it would be different, I think, if this was a once in a while they were called upon, to cover during Mayor Lehman's, twice a year vacation. But it sounds like this is a semi-regular occurrence that he at the moment, it's a he is the acting acting mayor. So yeah, I definitely think there should be a decent differentiation for recognition of playing both his ward role and his deputy mayor role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
agree as well.
Oh, sorry, Brandy Lee, I'll grab you first. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. I actually agree as well. I think I'd want to see historically sort of how frequent, maybe look over the last 5 years, like what the percentage of time is that they actually do have to step in. I think I would probably gauge it from that and then select a figure from there for the amount for increase.
So how would we calculate that, Brandy Lee?
Well, I think we would have to know, probably have to get the information from the city to see how frequent, what events they had to step in for, or how often the mayor happened to be away, or if they had to sit in meetings or count committees, for the mayor for any certain purpose, and then gauge based on the amount of happenings, and then to go from there to select a figure, I think.
Okay, Wendy?
We could probably get some kind of percentage from the mayor's office, because they would be the ones scheduling Deputy Mayor Ward's time for attendance at events and any other meetings that are outside of the city's purview. Like Mayor Lehman obviously is a very active and engaged mayor, so it would be more like if he was invited to two things at one time, maybe they would split, like one would go to one event, one would go to another event. Like that's how I believe that they've been bouncing things off, but I would have to get a little bit more information from the mayor's office on exactly how they were dividing those duties.
Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Would it be possible that we could recommend that, I know that the last election where they'd split the deputy mayor's term up into two councillors where they each did like a year and a half. And then that would make it actually fairer or more equitable to the two people that would be chosen for it, if that's possible. So that if you I'm just throwing these figures out there, if you took that $2,500, for example, and then two people would actually split that, so it'd only be $1,250 each extra that they'd be getting over a year and a half period, or 2 years, and then the other person would get the other remaining. So one person starts out as deputy mayor for the first 2 years, and then it changes to the next deputy mayor, so that it's more equitable amongst the people. And then it gives the other councillors something to go for, to try to earn that deputy mayor spot. That's just an idea. I know that they had it was working that way with Councillor Shipley and Councillor Ward, but I don't know if Wendy can maybe shed, is that something that council would still look to in the future, perhaps?
From my recall, the deputy mayor's position was split because they were the most two experienced councillors that sat on council, and that was a decision of the mayor to split the term between the two of them. So I would think if it would be up to, I guess, the mayor of the day, whether or not they wanted one mayor consistently for the full term, or whether they would want to split it, or like put one, like give 4 members of council an opportunity, one for each year. So generally that was left up to the mayor to recommend to council, and then it was council's decision whether or not they accepted that recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Steve. I guess what I'm going to make my comment here about appointment versus election, and I believe we need to work towards creating this position as an elected position that needs to be ratified through council. So just like we elect our mayor, we would elect the deputy mayor. I think that's something in the future that I feel that we need to recommend. Because right now it's just by appointment, and I don't know if that means that every counselor can put their name in the hat. And if it's up for if the position is up for grabs and, you know, I don't know what the criteria is, and I don't know what the protocol is, if there is a protocol. Or is it just the current mayor, whoever is mayor at the time, using his or her own discretion and saying, well, I want these two, and then make that recommendation to council, versus there's an application process, like a kind of a more of an application process, like committee, that kind of thing. So I would just want to ensure that there was more of a, I guess, a democratic process for a deputy mayor, especially as we grow and the role gets deeper and more defined. So I just wanted to place that, and I actually do want to make sure, I know we can't recommend that, but I'd really like the committee's support on that if we could put that in as an opportunity, you know, to have that. Danielle?
Yes, I agree. Like I think it sounds like a great opportunity, and certainly one to be more involved with council, build a good relationship with the mayor, certainly some mentorship, and I mean, like a better term, career development. So yeah, I think it would be great.
Any other, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I totally agree with Danielle on that, and especially on the mentorship thing, because you may find that he or she in the future, once they get their feet wet at being deputy mayor, may say, you know what, this mayor stuff, it's not for me. I just want to be just in the background a little bit more. And I think it works both ways for the person to, he or she, specifically in career development and their choices that they want to make in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, so maybe just something a little more defined. So everybody has an opportunity to take that role or not take that role. So they have room for growth, I guess, and room to get experience in that particular role. And just to note, just Wendy, you can confirm this, but every time, and I do watch every council meeting, every time I'm watching these council meetings, Barry he has a lot of work, like from what I see, right? He's always reading those motions, and it seems like Mayor Jeff always kind of points to him, you know, as a real second person. Is that right, Wendy?
Yeah, he reads all the motions to introduce the committee reports, and he also, like, if a staff member, if we have an item for discussion, like a motion that we need to put forward to get something approved, like for instance, example, grant applications. If we find out a grant application that we don't have approval through budget, Deputy Mayor Ward usually is the one we go to put those items on the floor for us and help, like, you know, help us out with them so that we can move things forward. So he is one of our go-to people for things like that. But yeah, he reads all the motions. We prepare them for him, but he's the one that reads them at the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so it seems like we're having a good discussion around. I think we're all in agreement that this is definitely a role that is going to require a little more compensation. How we define it, I don't think we can make recommendations on how it's defined, because you've already got a motion that you sent to us that I believe is splitting it for the two councils, but it was to those very specific councillors. So I'm not sure if that's a standing item, Wendy, or would have to be redone after the next election.
Oh goodness, it would have to be done after the next election, because we don't know who's going to be sitting on council, right?
Right.
During the next term. And we already had to pass a motion to extend Deputy Mayor Ward for the remainder of the term when Doug Shipley got elected as MPP, right? So we had to pass a separate motion because we only had the motion to have him as deputy mayor for the first half of the term. And just to go back, one of the things you couldn't approve anyways is to have an elected deputy mayor at this point, because we are starting in the election year this year, and that should have been dealt with last year. So that would be a decision that you couldn't make right now, but I definitely will include it as a paragraph in the staff report that staff, hopes members of council will consider this for future.
Good. Okay. Okay, so if we're going to make a recommendation on whether that's a salary increase based for the deputy mayor position, are we in agreement with Brandy Lee's suggestion about gathering more data around time that has been spent in the last year or two on activities? Is that going to help us make that decision?
I mean, I always like making data-based decisions. I guess the only question is that information readily available, and is it able to determine kind of when he was called upon, and maybe when he was there with Mayor Jeff? Like, I don't know how to, I don't know how to phrase that exactly, but there are times when he has to do something because Mayor Jeff isn't available. And then there's also times where he's also in the same spot and he just happens to be reading out the motions, for example. Like I don't want to cause a whole bunch of work for the administration team in order to do this. But database decisions are always good.
Steve?
Yeah, I certainly, and I agree with you. I watched the council meetings too, and Deputy Ward he's a busy fella. So at least it appears to be, and with what Wendy was saying too. If it would help, what if we said, okay, we used as a base $2,500, and then based on whatever the data is, and then go up from there, if that helps people.
Brandy Lee? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think it really matters the consensus of the group, right? And what everyone together thinks is the best course of action. So if we're trying to avoid the additional administrative work, then we could move forward with just selecting the base number and going from there.
Okay, Wendy?
Hold on a second. Goodness. So I'm just emailing the mayor and his assistant to see if I can get an answer during this meeting for the committee. But what I'm asking them, and maybe this might help out, is how many times a week does Deputy Mayor Ward attend events, meetings for you, with you? And would that help out? Would that be a fair question for a baseline for the committee?
I think
Sure,
so,
that
yeah.
would be helpful. Yeah.
Because the mayor's office schedules their, Deputy Mayor Ward at the events. So they would have some kind of a baseline to an average of how many events that he attends for the mayor. So
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get, I'm just sending it now. So I'll see if I can't get an answer during the meeting, I'll definitely have it in advance of the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's great. And also remember that on top of all of that, he's still looking after his ward too, right? So there's that piece. So that's great, Brandy Lee, for bringing that up about data, and Wendy. And this seems like a simple way of sourcing out some data that we can base it on. But if we all agree that we will make the recommendation on the $2,500 as an additional rate for the deputy mayor's position, do I have an agreement? Are we going to have a little vote on this? Yes. Yes. Brandy Lee, verbal?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Thank you. That's moved. Okay. And the car allowance, I guess that was another piece of it, was an additional $100 a month for the car allowance. Is that something that they get now? Is that something that's reasonable to keep or increase? Steve?
I think, well, given with everything else going up, I think you should at least increase it by the annual rate of inflation, just to keep pace. You know, last week we got a report that come out that next summer gas is going to be $1.68 to $1.70 a liter, and car prices are going up, and everything else. And I do know that members of council, yes, they do. You know, I'm sure they rack up a lot of kilometers in just in town driving, representing their wards and representing the city at certain functions. So I think it should go up by at least the cost of inflation.
Brandy Lee?
I tend to agree, actually. I've noticed it's already a significant increase in gas prices. Even just the prices for repair as well have gone up. I've seen the rates as well as parts. So I do agree. I'm not sure how far that $100 would go based on the steep increase as of late.
Just to confirm, and it's a taxable benefit, right? Like it's taxed at source or do you know?
It is a taxable benefit. Brian would be able to speak to whether it's taxed on the payroll or not.
Right. No, I was just wondering because I mean, an extra $100 or an extra $25, you're only going to see probably 15 of that. So yeah.
Today, and I have a question, Melissa, maybe you know this, or Wendy. On top of the car allowance, they also are able to submit mileage?
I would have to look at the policy. I think they're allowed to submit mileage if they're going to things out of town.
Yes.
So they get mileage if they're going to a conference or to a meeting out of town. They submit that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's in addition to the car allowance, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Brandy Lee, you have your hand up again?
No, sorry, I forgot to take it down. I'll do that now.
No worries. No worries. Okay, so did we agree we needed to increase the car allowance? Steve, you had made a suggestion based on the cost of living percentage. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's what I would look at a minimum, or if not increasing it to, you know, if you want to increase it to $200 a month. You know, now that some people may say, oh my God, that's a huge jump, but it really isn't when you even look at, I don't know if anybody's renewed their car insurance coming up for the next year. And I don't know about you, but insurance rates are not going down at all. They're going up too. And that's a big factor. And especially since they use their cars for commercial business, I guess, for while they're out on city business. So I don't know what the whatever inflation's running at, was it 4.7% or something like that right now? But I would say that is a minimum, but I could even see it going to double it to $200 a month. I'll just throw that out there.
Anybody else have any comments on that?
I'm not in disagreement to that. I don't know what our budget is and how much we can increase. I mean, it has to be reasonable, but also to Steve's point and to everyone else's point, the cost of living is gone up significantly, and $100 a month. Yeah, I'd be in favor of increasing the car allowance to as much as we can get approved.
Thank you. Brandy Lee, then to Melissa.
Just to assist with the numbers, I just looked it up, and inflation in 2021 was 4.9%.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Melissa?
I just wanted to clarify that counselors get $175 a month. And sorry, I'm just doing the math here. The deputy mayor gets $275 a month. I'm not sure if you were talking about the difference between them or the overall rate of all counselors, but it is 175 and 275 a month.
Okay. So we were interpreting that as $100 a month total. So
Yeah, no,
okay.
the difference between the deputy
Gotcha.
mayor and the regular counselors is 100 right now.
Right. So it's 175 for regular counselors and 275 for deputy mayor.
Correct.
Well, we're already there then.
We are.
Do we need to recommend a little adjustment?
Yeah, then taking that, then I would say at a low ball figure, minimum 5% if you want to round it up to 5%, and go to 240 or 250. Because as Danielle said, it's a taxable benefit. They're actually then only going to see an extra, if they're getting $175 a month now and you round that up, the federal government's going to take their share, and so it's the Ontario government. So they may only see an extra $25 a month increase that they could actually use towards their car allowance. So I could say at a minimum 5% up to 250.
And perhaps the deputy mayor at 325?
Yeah.
Brandy Lee?
So I think when I did the calculation of just an additional 5% onto 175, I think it came to 183, if I'm not mistaken. So what if we, instead of trying to push it up to 240, if we maybe just tried to start at the 200 range, because we are suggesting a bunch of other changes as well, that actually pushes it a little bit above inflation as well. And that way it's not such a great leap to start with.
So that would be taking it up to perhaps 200 for counselors and 300 for deputy mayor. Anybody comment?
Sorry, say that. Did you say 200?
200 for counselor and 300 for deputy mayor.
Okay, I can support that.
Yep.
Are we in it?
Oh,
yeah. Okay, we're in agreement on that then. So car allowance will go to $200 for counselor and $300 for deputy mayor. Yes, everybody's in agreement. Yes, Wendy, go ahead.
Are you going to look at the mayor's because his is different? His is.
Yeah. How much is the mayor's?
The mayor's is $500 a month.
Okay.
Just out of clarity.
Thank you. No, that's a good point. Thank you. Comments?
I could see the mayor's going to at least 600, given the fact that just the mayor's visual appearance that I've seen him out in the public, like you said, the guy's everywhere. Okay, like he's all over the place, and he's a very public mayor, and I think by increasing that to 600 is acceptable to help him along, whoever he or she is in the future.
That's great. Thanks, Steve. Brandy Lee.
Okay, so back to the numbers. So that would be 525 with the 5% increase. So Steve, what if we looked at doing 550 instead of 600? So again, it's doing that incremental increase.
Yep, I can support that.
Good. And everybody, did you say 550, Brandy Lee?
Yes, 550. Because with the 5% increase, it's 525. But just to give him, because the others are getting a little bit extra. So maybe just that little bit extra for him as well.
Okay. All right. So then 550 for the mayor, 300 for the deputy mayor, and 200 for the counselors. Yes? Great. Thank you. All in agreement. Thank you. Okay. So does that take care of, what have we got so far, Wendy? Oh, sorry, Wendy, you go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a couple other questions with the expense policy since we are going through that. There are discretionary expense amounts. The mayor gets $6 per person and the counselors get 27. I just want to make sure you want to leave it at that. As well as I just need to do a housekeeping amendment on the policy that I would need the committee to recommend. Because right now it's based on population included in the 2013 ward boundary review. And those population figures end this year. So I would just need a housekeeping amendment to say that we base them on new growth numbers. And I can get the name of the growth document that we can use from Development Services. But it's just more housekeeping so that the policy is more up to date and we can just base it on like growth numbers with them. I don't know if it's in the official plan or whatever, but I can get the name specifically for the committee when I present the recommendations next time.
Okay, so just for clarity, those figures, $6, and did you say 27?
6 cents per person.
6 cents, and sorry, it'd be a lot, and 27 cents
for counselors.
Right, and that is per person in their ward, is that correct?
Yes.
And that is discretionary funds they can use for newsletters or mailings or whatever the advertising, right. And you're requesting that we actually amend it so it's consistent with the most current data on numbers.
Yeah, just I'm not worried. Like if you guys don't want to touch the expense amounts, that's fine. Because I think from the survey, the counselors were happy with that amount. But I just want to find out if you're okay if I just amend the document that we base the population numbers on, because the document's outdated on the policy.
Of course. Is everybody in agreement with that? So we're dealing with accurate current numbers. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's great, Wendy.
Okay. And then I just had another thing I wanted to bring to the committee's attention. In the expense policy, we reimburse members of council for 100% outside of their expense policy for a municipal administration program. That's through the AMCTO. That's more for like staff courses. So a lot of council-based courses are done through AMO. So I was wondering if we wanted to change the courses to AMO and put it like, so the courses through AMCTO, there would be 4 of them to get this degree or this certificate, and they're $400 each. So would we want to maybe, and the committee can think about this for the next meeting, would the committee want to consider something that if a member of council wants to take education courses, that we reimburse them up to, I guess it would be like maybe $1,500 for any AMO courses that they want to take, because that would be the equivalent of that MAP program in cost. It's just that the MAP program, I think, is outdated in the policy, because this policy hasn't been updated in 11 years. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention. I don't think anyone's taken the MAP program, but members of council have taken programs through AMO, because AMO is more targeted for courses for elected officials, whereas AMCTO is more for like clerks and treasurers and things like that. So just something for the committee to maybe consider before the next meeting.
I think that makes perfect sense. I don't know if anybody else disagrees with that.
You go
Yeah.
first, Steve.
Yeah, Kelly, I just want to ask one, is there any other federal courses that the counselors might or organizations belong to, like a Canadian Association of Municipalities or something? Or
We already pay through the city's budget for membership through FCM and AMO. So that's not part of the council budget. That's part of my departmental budget that pays for, or the council overall budget that pays for FCM and AMO. So that wouldn't come out of any of their expense accounts, the membership. It would, the only thing that we deal with separately is if they want to attend the conference. which is
Right.
going to be my next question for you. So,
Okay.
I would be totally supportive of supporting continuing education, you know, say up to an annual maximum of whatever we thought was reasonable. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brandy Lee?
Yeah, I agree as well. And I'm wondering if we want to have the terminology saying specifically continuing education. I'm not sure if the document itself says that the name that you were talking about, but I'm not sure if we want to maybe broaden it to continuing education so it can include the other courses. And then if you said they're 400 each and then there's 4 of them, do we want to, instead of 15, do we want to do 16 just to cover that last $100? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. And then just my other question is, in the conference amounts, in the policy, it's specific to $15,000. Can we just say that, just generalize it and say that an operating budget be provided? Because I'm finding that $15,000 isn't always enough, because, well, I mean, in the last couple of years, it's been more than enough because nobody's traveled anywhere.
Yeah.
But the FCM we usually send like 4 members of council to FCM, and then the remainder go to AMO because AMO's in Ontario. But this year FCM is in Saskatchewan. So we would, when we cover conference accounts, we cover their flight, their hotel, any per diems for meals that are not covered by the conference account. So, so between the 2 conferences, that amount doesn't always cover it, because FCM moves AMO's not so bad, but FCM, because it moves across the country, so it's not always in Ontario or a drivable distance. So I was just wondering if the committee would consider removing that amount, just removing the amount out of the policy.
I think that would be reasonable. I think you already have policies, like you spoke about per diem, you spoke about travel. Like there's already guidance in terms of, you know, you can't book first class and, you know, suites at the nicest hotel and stuff. You already have guidance on that for cost control measures. So I think that because those are in place, I would agree. Yep.
Wendy, do all those go through you? Through your office? Like when people book for conferences, do you do all the booking? And
Yeah,
so
our office does all the booking for them.
Yeah. So you're in control of the budget anyway, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And then just one more housekeeping amendment. On the last page of the policy, it notes that the receipts for members of council must be submitted within 30 days of year end. That doesn't match with finances timelines to submit receipts and get everything for year end. So I was just wondering if we could just say in accordance with, and I'll get some wording from Melissa, but in accordance with finance year end reporting deadlines or something like that, because 30 days is definitely outside of their reporting deadlines. So I just thought we should clean up the policy just to reflect our internal processes.
Yep. Definitely. I think
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
No, that's
Chris?
it. Sorry to overtake, but I just wanted to get those questions answered. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome, Chris. Chris is here.
Hey, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. That's all right. So Wendy, can you just, I know you've written the little words down that we've, do you want to would you mind just reviewing that for Chris?
Sure. So, Chris, we're going to consider an additional $2,500 to be added to the deputy mayor's salary, pending information from the mayor's office concerning how much time the deputy mayor spends on activities. So that'll be a decision point at the next meeting. Then we're going to put a paragraph in the staff report, because you cannot recommend any changes to how the deputy mayor role is appointed at this time. But we're going to put a paragraph in the staff report saying that consideration be given to when future consideration be given to the deputy mayor position considering application process, voting process for future elections, because the committee thinks it would be a good mentorship opportunity, maybe provide somebody the opportunity to decide whether that's a career choice for themselves. And then for mileage, we are going for the members of council, we're upping their mileage to $200, the deputy mayor to $300, the mayor to $550,000. And then we've done a couple policy amendments, just more housekeeping. So under the discretionary expense amount, we're just changing the reference to the 2013 ward boundary review. And I'm going to put the name of a planning document in there because that ward boundary review only gives me population numbers up until 2022. So after this year, I don't have any, this document's redundant or expired, so to speak. Then we are going to, we're going to change in the policy, it refers to the municipal administration program. We are going to change that to AMO courses because AMO courses are more directed to council. And then we're just going to put the amount that they would get through a MAP program, which would be $1,600 to towards AMO courses. We're just removing the amount that we allocate in the policy to conferences because this policy is 11 years old, and the amount as once we get back to traveling, that $15,000 doesn't cover 11 members of council to either go to AMO or FCM. And then,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No, one more. And then we're just
Wow.
changing the submission of the receipts, because right now the policy says that members of council can submit receipts for the previous year up to 30 days after the end of the year. So like January 30th, and that's not following finance's timelines. So we just want to tidy that up so it matches finance's timelines. That's it.
That's great, Wendy. That's awesome. Okay, so why don't we just jump right into the recommendations coming from Brian for the benefits package. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the information received?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I'm good.
I'm good as well.
I just have one question, sorry. For the healthcare spending account, is that, I don't want to say free money, but do you have to, so for example, let's say that you have vision care, and I know they don't in option one, let's say you have vision care in your benefits. Do you have to exhaust your vision coverage and then access your healthcare spending account, or do you get to use the healthcare spending account whenever?
So you mean if there's overlap between the benefits plan and the healthcare spending account?
That is an excellent way of putting it, yes.
I'm not sure. So if it's within the same plan, I'm not sure it matters because it all comes from the same pot. If it was
okay.
like, let's say a council member had a plan with another employer, then they would have to exhaust that plan because this plan is second payer before they could access. But whether it goes through the healthcare spending or the regular plan, there might be, I don't think there would be, but I can look into that, but it wouldn't matter because it's all the same pot of money. Okay.
It's just for cost, like if you're paying for example, massage therapy within the benefits and they're never claiming it through their traditional benefits and they're just using their healthcare spending account money. I don't want to say, is it a waste of money for what you're paying in your traditional benefits if it's always being drawn out of the healthcare spending account? But if that's not the way that the billing works, I just wondered. And I also one more question. In terms of for option 2, how often is the plan reviewed for non-union staff? Like you mentioned in option 3 that you kind of review it would be, for example, reviewed every 2 years. But how often do you review the non-union staff, or how often does it go to market?
Well, it goes to going to market and how often we review is a totally different thing. Market is just which provider is providing it, right? But in terms of reviewing it, we don't actually have a policy on how often we review it. So generally, we take a look at it every time it goes, like our union groups bargain. So that's every 3 years, we take a look at it. Right now, though, we're actually doing a specific review on our non-union benefit plan. And that, like independently of bargaining, and that hasn't happened in like longer than I've been here, which is almost a decade. So I'd like to say every 5 years, because that's what we should be doing. But hopefully that's what we're going to work towards. That once this review is done, we'll do another one in 5 years. That's my goal anyways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if that's a recommendation we can make, Danielle, then, if we recommend a benefits package for the councillors and the mayor, could we also recommend that the benefit gets reviewed more frequently, or I'm not sure if that would be helpful.
I think if you're going to have it, if you're going to have them tag on to the non-union group, I think it's kind of got to go the way whatever non-union group, whatever happens to the non-union group, that's what happens to the council members. If you want to go with a separate one, then you could tag on a review process to them. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should make it as administratively easy as possible. So if the union staff are on a 3-year market review, send it out to market, see what you can do, then why not make it 3 years across the board? Unless there's massive issues with your benefit plan, why not make it the same? And then if you go on a 5-year design review, like just set that up across the board. But I think it should be easier, because not only is there a cost of benefits, there's also a cost of reviewing, administration. If you have 3 different plans, 3 different reviews, 3 different market schedules, that's also your time, and that's not the best use of your time, probably.
It would be easiest to tag it on to the non-union group, but what I'm saying is I don't think this committee could dictate how often the non-union group plan gets reviewed.
Right.
Like that would be out of scope, because you're focusing on the council plan. And so if you just say do whatever the non-union group does, it can't. I don't think it can come with the recommendation on how often to review it. Just whenever the non-union group gets reviewed. So, but yeah.
Okay. Now, what are the comments on the options then? So I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on option, what they think is the best option, and their recommendations.
I'll go first. I thought option 2. I like the option 2. I mean, I understand it's the loss of the health. I believe it's the loss of the healthcare spending account. But in terms of, again, an ease of administration, it looked like a good benefit package. I will say, like, I was interested to read that licensed speech therapy, naturopath, Christian Science practitioner. I haven't seen that one for a while. I mean, it's fine. It's no comment. It's just, it's not one that usually pops up. So I personally think that it would be, I like option 2.
Thank you. Chris, did you?
I concur the same thing. Option 2, without the health spending account, because the paramedical seems to encompass quite a bit in the non-union group. So that would be my area. Also, exactly the same reasons. It's simplifying the process, less costs. The health spending account, it does come with administrative costs to it. So it just isn't the $1,000 that go to each council member for each for the calendar year. So there are some additional administrative expenses and some stick handling in that from an administration standpoint and management. So I really like the option number 2. It seems to streamline everything for everybody, and it gives them a bump in the benefits as well. So that's where I would sit.
Thank you, Chris. Brandy Lee and then Steve.
So I'm actually kind of equally split and torn between option 1 and 2. I feel number 1 with the healthcare spending account kind of leaves it as a broad option for the council members to use it for what's best suited to them. However, I do agree that the administrative ease that it would be to have one less category would be great for 2. So I'm kind of good with either. I don't really have one that I'm leaning more towards at this point.
Okay, thank you, Brandy Lee. Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Danielle and Chris, because they're, I'm going to say, the experts in the fields, and with Brandy's comments too. I like option 2. It does streamline, and if anything that makes it easier for the administrative functions to take place, I'm all for that. So option 2.
Okay, I see your hand, Danielle, but I have one question. Do we not need to decide whether or not the counselor pays 50% or 0%?
That was actually my question. My question was, if, for example, we went with option 2, what is the cost impact to the counselors?
Brian?
So option 2, it totally depends on if you keep the current arrangement, which is the 50% premium share. And so you could see the cost of the counselors would be half of that monthly premium. That's on page 3, which is per family is about $250.
So is that in addition to what they're paying now?
No. That would be instead of what they're paying now. So
do you know approximately how much they're paying now and like what the difference is? Because I mean, it's great for us to go, yay, option 2, everyone moves over, and then it's going to be $400 more a month.
Yeah, so currently for family it's about $207.
Oh,
so it would be an additional about $35 a month to move to the non-union plan.
and I think if I remember correctly, this is a much more comprehensive plan than what they have now. So an additional $35. I mean, I can't speak for each individual, but it would be a bargain, maybe, hopefully.
Better value, I think, is maybe what you're suggesting. Yeah.
You'll be my wordsmith. I need you to follow me around all day.
Chris?
Brian, so what you're echoing is the current non-union members are paying 50% of the premium. Is that right?
No, non-union pay. It's all covered. It's 100% premiums covered.
Okay.
They do have. There is a requirement to pay 5% of the cost of pharmaceuticals, for example, up to a maximum of 150. So there's there's things like that in there, but it's covered fully. So yeah, the part of the issue for this committee would be to say, is this going to be still 50% covered or 0% covered? If it was 0% covered, probably all the council members would just register, and it would just be a cost covered by the city.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, if we get rid of their current group plan that they're in now, and we have them all migrate to the option 2 plan, which is the non-union, you can't change the rules of the counselors are going to pay 50% of the premium, but the other non-union members are not going to pay anything. The counselors would automatically be adopting the non-payment option, like the copay.
No,
right?
they can still pay 50% because it's kind of independent. The city pays the big chunk of money for premiums. We just bill back the counselors that 50% of what we pay. So it's an independent process.
Okay. So I would opt for an option of the exact same thing as what the non-union members would do. So counselors would not have to pay 50% of the coverage. That's what I would opt for.
Okay. Is it so I guess my question is, the city staff of the city of Barrie, non-union, union, part-time, I don't know if that's applicable, but no one pays any percentage of their benefits.
Correct.
So is that right, Brian?
Benefits premiums, that's correct, yes.
So your benefit premium is 100% covered by the city.
Correct.
Okay, and when these benefits were offered to the counselors, only 50% was offered, is that right?
Yeah, I don't know the history, but that's what it appears to be. I don't know if that was right off the bat or if it changed, I don't know, but that's what it is now. So we can assume that's the case.
So in looking at
Danielle?
the report that was, it said that if sorry, I'm trying to do two screens here. If all of the counselors enrolled, it would cost the city an additional $65,252, and that would be the total cost to the city if we did zero cost to the counselors, correct?
Correct. I will point out that it's a bit of a like it's more the cost you can attribute to the counselors, because the money doesn't go to the, like if they don't use it, the city keeps the money because it's administrative services only, right? So it's
Okay.
not like we pay that premium if they don't use it, that we lose the money. It's like it just sits there,
Right.
you know,
And then it comes back.
in that pot. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
and then it says, okay, so but then it says annual premium cost to the city if optional and with 50% premium, assuming 5 counselors use it. Do you mean 5 counselors because that's how many are using the current plan?
correct. So if it's 100% paid, I'm assuming all 11 would sign up like immediately, because there's no reason not to. But if it is 50% paid, then you're probably likely going to have the same people participate as today.
Okay, so if we're talking also about aligning the pay increase with the non-union staff, if that's an alignment that we're talking about making. Perhaps we also can talk about the alignment with the benefits as well with the non-union staff, and that's a really good point, Brian. Thank you for bringing that up, because I thought that was money lost, but it's not. So which we need to be clear on that when we make that recommendation, because I know people will look at that line and go, so we need to be really clear, and I'm not sure how we can articulate that if we do agree that we recommend the 100% coverage aligning with the non-union staff. How does everybody feel about that, Danielle?
Also, it says this in the report as well, that there can be coordination of benefits. So if a counselor has benefits elsewhere, either through their first job or other job, or through a spouse, the city would become second payer. So that also reduces the potential cost to the city too, which I think is an important thing to remember. But yes, I would be in favor of the recommendation.
You have to turn your mic on, Kelly.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Steve, I'm calling you.
Sorry.
No, it's just me. It's like I got my mic off.
I think it's an important point to point out too, that with this, if this were accepted by council, our part of the goal is you want to attract the best qualified person that's out there and interest them in being a mayor, deputy mayor, councillor. And again, I'm just thinking of like a single person who's sitting, thinking about, geez, do I really want to get into politics? And all of a sudden I find out, oh, there's a benefit plan and it's covered by the city. Boy, big thing lifted off your shoulders. And it's another, not a lot, you're talking $65,000 in a budget of what, a couple of $100 million for the year. I think that the city could definitely find that $65,000, and justifiably it's explainable to the members of the public too. So I think it's a great idea to do it, but it just added to that little extra incentive to somebody else is sitting on the fence. Do I want to be a counselor? Do I not? Right?
I agree, Steve. That's a great point. Thank you. Chris?
I'm going by memory because I'm not in my office right now, but there was another document that you provided in the email to us of how Barrie stood or stood out against the other the benchmarks. So we were at par or subpar or below and all that. By going this route, we would check off an awful lot of boxes where Barrie is below. And I remember it was something like 31 topics we were at below average for the thing. So going this route with option 2 with 100% coverage, like the non-union folks employed at the city, would definitely bring the counselors up substantially in those rankings.
Yeah, good point, Chris. I would agree with everybody on this one. And I believe we need to word it accordingly, because I don't want it to be taken out of context at the council when it's presented. So as long as we, word it that it's really not a cost per se if it's not used. So it all kind of goes back. And if we can simplify that wording, Brian, I guess somehow that it's clear. I really think this would be a great benefit to attract, as Steve said, more interesting and qualified and great folks to run our city.
If Wendy can take a stab at the initial, and then I'll wordsmith it, Wendy, after you're from a benefits technical perspective, that'd be great.
So I think we're all in agreement here on option 2 with 100% coverage. Yes? Yeah. Brandy Lee?
Yes.
Great, thank you. The other item on that was the OMERS piece. Was that at the end, Brian? Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, sorry. So the next, I was hoping people would scroll down because there was a bit of space at the end of the health and dental. The next piece was a life insurance, which currently we're offering 1 times their annual stipend or whatever it is, where the market norm is 2 times. So that's the next piece. And then, and then after that was the OMERS piece. Yeah.
Okay, so on the life insurance, recommendations of 2 times base salary versus 1. Yeah.
One of the recommendations. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Go ahead, Danielle.
One of the recommendations I think Brian made is potentially like 1 times for counselor, 2 times for mayor.
I think I just I don't think I put that in. I think I just gave you the cost of 2 times for everyone. But I think somewhere I said you can for OMERS, for example, you can have benefit, you can have a differentiation in general between the mayor and other councillors. I wasn't specifically referring to life insurance, but yeah, you could do that if you wanted.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I certainly think that should be 2 times the coverage, because unfortunately, things can happen. And if all we have to do is just look to the north of Oral over the last election, what did they lose? 2 or 3 councillors out there that passed away and off their council. So if it's a benefit to their immediate families, I think at a bare minimum should be 2 times the salary.
Anybody else? We want to agree on this item? Yes?
Yes.
Brandy Lee?
I'm okay with it being at 1 times, but if the general consensus is okay with 2, I mean, that's fine as well. I feel like we are doing a lot of improvements. So I've seen the benefits plans I've seen over the last several years have been all 1 times. So, I mean, it's really, if generally we all would like to do that, that's okay with me, but I'm also comfortable with staying at 1.
Okay. So I think the general consensus is 2. Okay, we'll move with 2. And that's great. Let's move on to the next item. I believe that was the OMERS piece, Brian. Can you just review that briefly?
Yeah, so the OMERS piece, so OMERS provides a defined benefit plan for pension, and it is based on years of service and your best 5 years of income. Defined benefit plans are generally structured. Really great plan. You note probably from the survey that somewhere around half the comparators don't have it as part of the offerings for the counselors, and about half do, but I think it said all of them except for us had it for the mayor at least. So in terms of market norm, it seems we are the one outlier for the mayor who's considered a full-time, and then for the counselors, it's around half do, half don't. The cost is 15 grand for the mayor, 4 grand for the deputy mayor because their salaries got that little bump for being deputy, and then for all 9 of the rest of the councillors, it'd be about just under 34,000. This is probably a more controversial decision because there is no market norm for the councillors themselves. So I don't know what else you'd like me to offer, but that's the overall summary.
Thank you, Brian. Questions and comments, Danielle?
Given, I mean, kind of to what Brandy Lee was saying, given all the actions that we are taking, could one consideration be that we do this for the mayor, given that that seems to be what other cities do? Maybe even do it for the deputy mayor and leave the councillors for now. I mean, I think it would be nice to give to everyone, but I'm not sure. Like, I don't know when all of these motions or when all this goes to council, if they're going to be like, whoa, they're asking for a lot. So I just didn't want to get greedy.
Thank you. Brandy Lee?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'm wondering if we could maybe look at it as like a tiered step. So, okay, so we're saying by this date, like, say within the next 3 to 6 months or whatever date is elected, to implement them into the new benefits, that they do that. And then, if we are still interested that in having them join this, and we feel that they should, what if we said, okay, and then in, 2 or 3 years, then we'll implement this? And what if we did like sort of steps, rather than it just being a big jump all at once?
So I think our recommendations, Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are going to council, they're voting on it, and this will be for the next council coming in November. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, the changes won't take effect until the new term of council.
Okay.
And then Brian has his hand up there too.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Brian, go ahead.
I don't know if this has been brought up in the first part yet, but I know, Melissa, you had some numbers. Just sometimes it helps for the committee members to understand what this would mean to what an increase, like any increase, would mean to the average taxpayer if we're talking about increasing things. Melissa, did you want to, have you mentioned that to the committee yet, or?
No, I haven't. So Brian just suggested that I get some numbers together to say what a increase in costs would cost to the average taxpayer, like increase their tax bill. So I can run calcs on whatever numbers you want, but say a $10,000 increase in costs would be about 16 cents to the average taxpayer in the city. So like 100,000 would be an extra $1.55 kind of thing.
So to translate that, just so you have a sense, because Brenda Lee, I know that you've been, in terms of talking about how much is this going to impact the taxpayers, and probably the rest of you probably want to know as well. But so if you added the mayor to the pension plan at 15,000, so that would be about 24 cents for the average taxpayer to make that change. And sometimes it's helpful to know what kind of money you're talking about to the average taxpayer. I don't know if that helps or not, but there it is for you to consider.
Yeah, that actually makes a big difference. It doesn't seem as impactful that way. So I actually, with it, the numbers being as such, I think I would support looking at having them join that, the OMERS.
Thank you, Brian, and Brandy Lee and Wendy. I also think it would be very beneficial. And again, how we attract people to run for council, as Steve has been raising that flag consistently. And thank you for that, Steve, because it's really important that we do get a variety of people at our table, at our council table, but also giving them a good benefit plan and salary. We would be the first, I imagine, then, Brian, if we decided or suggested, recommended that all of council, including mayor, be part of the OMERS program, but I would be in support of that.
I believe, like, according to the survey, there's about half municipalities who already offer that. So we wouldn't be the first municipality, but we would be on the average curve in that way.
How does everybody feel about that? Do I hear any recommendations, any hands up that would support that? Brandy Lee?
Yes, I support it.
Once Melissa gave us the perspective of how it hits the relative to costs. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's another one that we flew through. Great team here. Thanks for all the data. And Melissa, that was very helpful to understand that context. It's always helpful to get the data around it. So I think we're all in agreement again for the adoption of the recommendation for OMERS for the mayor, deputy mayor, and council position. Yes. Thank you. I think that was the last item on that, Brian, on your yeah, okay. All right. Unless there's anything else, does anybody have anything else today? Good, great, okay. Yes, Wendy, yes, your hand is up, sorry.
Sorry about that. I would be amiss, and I forgot to do it at the very beginning of the meeting, and so I'm a terrible boss. I forgot to introduce Megan Williams, who's on the call. She's the new deputy city clerk. So I just wanted to introduce her to the committee. My apologies, I missed it at the meeting. So sorry, Megan. Terrible boss today. But this is Megan. She's joined us. She started on Tuesday, and she comes with us from the city of Aurelia. So I just wanted, she's going to be helping me and Ashley with the committee stuff, get going forward so we can get the report done for you guys. But I just wanted to introduce her before the end of the meeting. So just wanted to welcome her.
Hi, Megan, welcome. What city I didn't hear it correctly. What city?
From the city of Aurelia.
Aurelia, awesome. That's great. Well, close by. That's nice. Welcome. Thank you. Good. Anybody else have anything? Steve?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just wanted to thank yourself and everyone on the committee today. We had excellent discussion and ideas that come up today, and we got a lot of work accomplished today in a short period of time. I just want to thank everybody for that.
Yes, I totally agree, Steve. It was a great meeting, great team we have here. So thanks very much, everybody. I will move for an adjournment, and we will meet again at our regular scheduled time in February. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but we all know when that is. Adjournment, yes. Thank you, Steve, second. Yeah, Chris, great. Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.
Kelly.
Brandy Lee,
Bye.
I hope your household is back to
Yes,
normal
Brandy
and health.
Lee.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you very much, everyone.
our thoughts are with you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great work, everyone.